I never thought I'd say this out loud, but here I am. I'm 52, freshly divorced, trying to rebuild my life, and suddenly I can't stop thinking about her. Not just anyone, my ex-husband's new wife, the woman I should probably resent, maybe even hate, but instead, I feel drawn to her, curious, confused, and maybe something more. Is this a midlife crisis, a hidden truth, or something else entirely? I need to talk about this. I never thought I'd find myself in this situation. At 52, I had been through my fair share of heartbreak and confusion. But this was different. It wasn't just about my divorce. It was something deeper, something that had been building for a while, and that I was only now beginning to recognize. It all started innocently enough. My ex-husband, Mark, and I had spent decades together, sharing memories, building a life. But after 25 years of marriage, things fell apart. Our bond had slowly eroded under the weight of unmet expectations and growing distances, and we parted ways in what I can only describe as a complicated, messy split. The idea of moving on seemed impossible at first. I found myself questioning who I was without him, questioning my worth. I tried dating, but it always felt forced, awkward, like I was wearing a skin that didn't fit right. I was too old for the usual dating apps, and frankly, the thought of starting over with someone new felt exhausting. So I decided to focus on myself, on finding my independence, on rebuilding. Then something unexpected happened. One evening, I bumped into Mark's new wife, Rachel, at a coffee shop. We'd met a couple of times when they were dating, but we never really connected. Still, there was always a polite smile, the small talk at family gatherings, and the mutual understanding that we were both part of Mark's life now. But that day, something was different. She looked stunning, more so than I remembered. Her confidence was unmistakable, but there was also a vulnerability in her eyes that I hadn't seen before. I wasn't sure if it was the way the light hit her face, or the way she seemed so comfortable in her own skin. But something about her presence made me pause. For the first time since the divorce, I felt something that was far from the usual bitterness or anger I had been holding on to. We started talking. It was casual at first, just catching up. But as the conversation flowed, I noticed a shift. There was a certain energy between us, an unspoken connection that I couldn't quite place. I thought I was imagining things, but deep down, I knew I wasn't. We shared laughter, we shared stories, and when we parted ways, I felt something stir inside me, a feeling I hadn't expected. Was it attraction? Confusion? Maybe both. I tried to shake it off, to convince myself it was just a fleeting moment. After all, she was my ex-husband's wife. This was wrong on so many levels. But as the days went by, I found myself thinking about her more and more. Every time I saw her name on social media or heard Mark mention her, it triggered something inside me. It was hard to ignore, harder still to understand. What was happening to me? Was this some kind of midlife crisis? Was I just lonely, searching for something to fill the empty space? Or was this something deeper, something I couldn't yet admit to myself? The more I tried to push the feelings away, the stronger they became. I'd catch myself imagining what it would be like to be close to her, to feel her presence in my life in a different way. It terrified me, but the truth was clear. I was falling for her, my ex-husband's wife. The days that followed that chance meeting with Rachel were a blur. It felt like time was moving in two directions at once. On one hand, I was trying to focus on my life, rebuild myself, and regain control. On the other, I couldn't stop thinking about her. It wasn't just the fleeting attraction I had initially brushed off. It was deeper, more consuming. I didn't talk to anyone about it. Who could I? My friends would probably laugh at me, or worse, they'd judge me. No one would understand, and truthfully, I didn't understand it either. How could I? I was a woman in her 50s, divorced, trying to find peace, and here I was, fascinated by the woman who had taken my place. It felt wrong, so wrong that I could hardly admit it to myself. One evening, Mark called me. It had been a while since we'd spoken about anything other than logistics, finances, kids, the occasional family obligation. But this time, his tone was different. He seemed distracted, almost guilty. I couldn't quite put my finger on it. We chatted about the kids' plans for the summer. Then he hesitated before speaking again. Hey, I know it's been weird between us, but I just wanted to say that Rachel really likes you, he said, almost like an afterthought. She thinks you're amazing. You two should hang out more. I felt my chest tighten. Was he trying to make me feel better, or was he just being sincere? Either way, it struck me as odd that he was bringing her up like this, so openly. I had always known they were close, but the idea of him actively encouraging me to spend more time with his wife felt off. Was this his way of absolving his guilt? Or was he genuinely trying to build some sort of peace between us? Sure, I'll think about it, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. But inside, my mind was racing. Rachel liked me? Was he serious? Was this some sort of twisted joke? I barely knew her, and yet I couldn't help but wonder if she felt the same pull toward me. Could she be going through the same confusion that I was? The next time I saw her, just a few days later, my heart pounded in my chest. We met at a small cafe again, this time with no awkward introductions, no hesitant smiles. She sat down across from me, and I noticed how close she sat, how comfortable she seemed, as though we'd known each other for years. We talked about everything, our lives, the ups and downs of being women in their 50s, the struggles of figuring out who you really are when your past is filled with so much baggage. I felt a strange sense of camaraderie with her, like we were two souls stranded on similar paths, trying to find our way. I couldn't ignore the electricity in the air, nor the way her gaze lingered on mine just a second too long. Was this just normal? Was this what it was like when women in their 50s, who had seen and experienced so much, began to rediscover parts of themselves they had long ignored? Maybe it wasn't about love, but something more primal, a yearning for something new, something exciting. But the more we talked, the more the line between friendship and something more started to blur. Rachel spoke with such passion, such intensity. Her words were like an open invitation, even if I wasn't entirely sure where it led. I wasn't naive. I knew what was happening here. I knew that whatever it wasn't just friendship. It couldn't be. Mark told me you two haven't really spoken much lately, she said, her voice soft. He told me he feels like you're still upset with him, that it's hard for you. I could feel my pulse quicken. The subject of Mark had come up again, and I wasn't sure how to respond. I wanted to say so many things, how I felt betrayed, how I had to let go, how I was trying to heal, but I didn't want to complicate things with her. I didn't want to make this about him. Not now. I'm trying to move on, I said simply, hoping my tone would close the conversation. But Rachel's eyes didn't look away. I understand, she said softly. It's not easy. I get it, truly. For a brief moment, we sat there in silence. The weight of the unspoken words hung between us like a fog, and I knew things would never be the same again. I wasn't just falling for her, I was beginning to crave her. I was terrified by it, but the fear was also part of the attraction. There was something thrilling about the forbidden, something intoxicating about this connection I couldn't explain. And yet, as much as I tried to deny it, I knew this would be the beginning of something I couldn't walk away from. Things between Rachel and I started to shift. In the weeks following that conversation at the cafe, we began spending more time together. It wasn't anything overtly romantic. At least, that's what I told myself. But there was an undeniable chemistry that I could no longer ignore. We went for walks in the park, had lunch at our favorite spots, and shared so many personal stories that, frankly, felt like they should have been reserved for someone closer, someone with a much longer history in my life. Yet here I was, drawn to her, almost against my will. Mark, for his part, seemed oblivious to the growing bond between us. Or maybe he chose to ignore it. After all, it was easy for him to keep pretending everything was fine, to keep believing that his ex-wife and his new wife could just get along like two normal women. But things weren't normal. I wasn't sure how long I could keep lying to myself, let alone him. One afternoon, Rachel invited me over to her apartment. It wasn't anything unusual, just another friendly get-together. But when I arrived, I immediately noticed a change in the atmosphere. The air was thick with anticipation, and there was something in Rachel's eyes that told me this was no longer a casual visit. She greeted me with a lingering hug, her hands resting on my back just a little longer than necessary. It was subtle, but I felt it, the electric charge that sparked between us. We sat down in the living room, and I could hardly concentrate on what we were talking about. My thoughts kept drifting back to the closeness of her touch, the way she leaned in just a bit when she spoke. Her laughter sounded different, warmer somehow, and I found myself responding to it with a kind of intensity I hadn't known I was capable of. "So," she began, her voice low and soft, "I know we've both been through a lot lately, with the divorce and, well, with everything, but I feel like we're connecting in a way I didn't expect." I could barely breathe. Was she reading my mind? Could she feel it too? My heart was pounding in my chest as I tried to maintain control, tried to remind myself of the boundaries I had set, the ones that kept me safe from falling too far into this new, dangerous territory. "I think we have a lot in common," I managed to say, my voice shaking slightly. She smiled at me, her eyes searching mine as if she were trying to read the truth that I had buried deep inside. "I feel like we're more alike than we realize," she said, her words slipping out like a confession. That's when it happened. When the walls I'd carefully constructed around myself began to crumble. I was no longer just talking to my ex-husband's wife. I wasn't merely sharing pleasantries. I was connecting with her on a level I had never anticipated. And I wasn't sure if it was because I was lonely, desperate, or just curious, but I couldn't stop myself from leaning in. Our faces were so close now, our breaths mingling in the space between us. She didn't pull away. Instead, she reached up and gently brushed a strand of hair from my face, her touch lingering for a fraction of a second longer than it should have. The gesture felt intimate, too intimate. I felt the heat of the moment, the overwhelming desire to close the gap between us, to feel her lips against mine. It was wrong. I knew it was. I shouldn't be feeling this way. This was my ex-husband's wife. But as I sat there frozen, I realized I wasn't just attracted to her. I wanted her. Rachel, I whispered her name like it was a prayer, a desperate plea for clarity. My head spun, and all I could think about was how much I wanted to be close to her. But I didn't know how to make sense of it. I didn't know how to reconcile these feelings with the person I thought I was. I don't know what this is, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, my heart thumping loudly in my chest. Rachel didn't answer immediately. She simply gazed at me, her lips parted slightly, and for a moment I thought she was going to say something, something that would make everything clear. But instead, she reached out and touched my hand gently, her fingers grazing over mine. "We don't have to figure everything out right now," she said softly, her voice thick with something I couldn't quite place. "We'll take it one step at a time. No pressure. But whatever this is, it's real." And just like that, the world tilted beneath me. I didn't know where this path was leading, but I knew I couldn't walk away from it. Not anymore. The days that followed that afternoon at Rachel's apartment were a blur of emotions. Part of me wanted to pretend like nothing had happened, like we were just two women who had connected over mutual life experiences. But another part of me, maybe the part that had been starving for something new, something exciting, kept reminding me of what had transpired, the raw energy that had hung in the air between us. I couldn't stop thinking about her touch, the way her fingers had brushed against mine. It was a small gesture, but it felt like a turning point. Something in me had been unlocked, and now I couldn't unsee it. I couldn't unfeel it. I kept telling myself that I needed to step back, that I had to put up boundaries. But every time I tried to distance myself, I found myself drawn to her again. She wasn't like anyone I had ever met. She wasn't just Mark's wife anymore. She was Rachel, a woman who had carved out her own place in my life without either of us realizing how it had happened. I told myself I could handle this, that I could keep my feelings in check and not let them spiral out of control. But the truth was, I didn't know how to be around her without feeling this overwhelming pull, like a magnet I couldn't escape. One night, a week after our last meeting, Rachel called me. The sound of her voice on the other end of the line was enough to make my heart race. She asked if I wanted to meet up, just the two of us, for dinner. No pretense, no expectations, just a casual meal. But the way she said it, so softly, so carefully, told me there was more to it than that. Sure, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I'd love that. When we met at the restaurant, the tension between us was palpable. Rachel had dressed simply but elegantly, and I couldn't help but admire the way she carried herself. She seemed so sure of herself, so in control. She greeted me with that same warm smile, but this time there was something different in her eyes, something more intimate. We talked about everything: books, movies, life after divorce. Yet it felt like we were speaking in coded language, both of us knowing that what we were really talking about was each other. Every word seemed to carry double meanings, and I was hyper aware of how our legs occasionally brushed under the table, how our eyes lingered just a little too long. After dinner, she suggested we walk around the nearby park. The night air was cool, and the quiet surrounding us made everything feel more intense. We walked side by side, our steps matching in rhythm, our conversations turning to more personal matters. At one point, she reached out and touched my arm, lightly at first, but when I didn't pull away, her hand stayed there, resting gently on my skin. "Do you ever wonder what it would be like?" Rachel said, her voice barely above a whisper. "If we stopped fighting what's between us?" I froze. My breath caught in my throat. Did she mean it? Did she really feel the same way I did? I looked over at her, trying to read her expression, but all I saw was vulnerability, a vulnerability I hadn't expected from her. It made me realize just how much we had both been holding back, afraid of crossing that line. "I think about it all the time," I admitted, my voice soft but firm. "But I'm scared, Rachel. I'm scared of what it means, what it would do to everything, to my relationship with Mark, to my own sense of self. I don't know if I can keep doing this." Rachel stopped walking and turned to face me. The streetlights above cast a warm glow on her face, and for the first time, I saw her fully, the woman, not just the wife. There was no facade anymore, just raw honesty. "We don't have to have all the answers right now," she said gently, her voice steady despite the tension in the air. But whatever happens, we have to acknowledge that this is real. We can't ignore it. Her words lingered in the air between us like a declaration. There was no turning back now, no pretending this was nothing. I felt my heart pounding, my body screaming at me to pull away, to protect myself. But another part of me, the part that had been starving for connection, for truth, wanted to lean in, to close the distance between us, to feel her warmth against me. Before I could say anything, Rachel stepped forward, closing the gap I had left between us. Her hand cupped my face, gently pulling me toward her, and in that moment, I knew, without a doubt, that I was about to cross a line that couldn't be uncrossed. When our lips met, it was like the world stopped spinning. Everything I had feared, every reason I had held back, vanished in that kiss, and in its place was a deep, undeniable connection, one that neither of us could ignore any longer. The kiss was everything I had feared and everything I had wanted all at once. It was like a dam breaking, releasing all the feelings I had tried to suppress for so long. As Rachel's lips met mine, it felt like the world shifted beneath me, like I was stepping into a new reality where the rules I had lived by no longer applied. The world around us, Mark, the kids, my friends, seemed so far away, as if they no longer mattered. There was only the two of us in that moment. When we pulled away, I was breathless. I couldn't look at her right away, afraid that if I did, I would see something I couldn't bear to see. Regret, fear, or maybe even guilt. But when I finally looked into her eyes, I saw none of those things. What I saw was the same thing I had felt when I was with her before, a deep, quiet understanding. This wasn't just an impulsive act. This was something more, something real. We can't undo this, I said, my voice shaky but certain. Rachel's hand, still resting lightly on my cheek, gave a small squeeze. I don't want to, she whispered. I never have. The weight of her words hit me like a ton of bricks. This wasn't a fling. This wasn't just some desperate act of rebellion against a life that had felt stale and unfulfilling for so long. This was something more complicated, more intense, something I had never expected and yet had secretly longed for. As the night air cooled around us, the consequences of what we had just done began to sink in. I had kissed my ex-husband's wife, not in some wild, passionate moment, but in a quiet, undeniable truth. And I knew there was no turning back. No way to unfeel what I felt for her. For a moment, I let the silence settle between us. Neither of us said anything, but the air around us seemed to hum with unspoken questions. What now? Where did we go from here? Was this something we could hide from everyone, including ourselves? I don't know what to do with this, I confessed, my voice barely a whisper. I don't know what it means. Rachel stepped back, releasing her hold on me. I missed the warmth of her touch immediately, but she gave me a soft, reassuring smile. I don't have all the answers either, she said quietly. But I think we have to figure it out together. We can't just pretend like this didn't happen. I never wanted to hurt you, I said, the words feeling too heavy in my chest. I never wanted to hurt Mark. But now, I don't know what's real anymore. Rachel's expression softened. You don't have to choose, you know. You can have what's real for you. I know this is complicated. Hell, it's a mess. But I think deep down, we both know we're not the same people we were a few months ago. She was right. We weren't the same people. I wasn't the same woman who had walked away from my marriage a year ago. And Rachel wasn't the same woman who had entered that marriage with Mark either. Somewhere along the way, we had both changed. And whether I liked it or not, we had changed together. I didn't know how to tell Mark or the kids. I didn't even know how to tell myself what I had become, what this connection with Rachel meant. But I knew I couldn't keep pretending that I wasn't feeling something real, something powerful. We stood there for a while, just looking at each other, both of us trying to figure out what came next. I could feel the weight of the world pressing on me, the weight of guilt, confusion, and fear. But in that moment, I also felt a strange sense of freedom, like I had been given permission to explore this new part of myself, this new side of my life that had always been there, hidden away beneath years of self-doubt and fear. What happens now? I asked quietly, my voice trembling with uncertainty. Rachel stepped closer, taking my hand in hers. Her touch was warm, grounding. Now we take it one day at a time. We face the consequences, whatever they may be, but we don't have to face them alone. I wasn't sure what the future held. I didn't know if Rachel and I could keep this hidden forever. I didn't know if my feelings for her were enough to break the ties that still bound me to my past, to Mark, and to everything I had known. But for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finally being true to myself. And maybe that was all I could ask for. Life is full of unexpected twists, and sometimes it's the most complicated connections that reveal who we truly are. This journey with Rachel has been a roller coaster of emotions, self discovery, and raw truths. But no matter where it leads, it's clear that I can't deny my feelings anymore. What do you think? Can love truly come from the most unlikely places? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's talk about the messy, beautiful complexity of relationships.